can't activate mine for some reason.
What does that look like? Alright, so this is
I think I sent it to you.
I don't even know.
Oh, no. Moving into the server
Server
image.
manager?
Yeah,
He's created a special, listen, I can't, I had to go to different images because
Wait, no.
I wasn't done grading. So you can only have one activated lab at a time, so I didn't want to mess up your midterm. So we created different boot images in our workstation.
Oh, I see, okay.
So do me a favor, boot into, if you don't have it, we gotta stay in Windows, go back to Windows 10.
But look, yeah, but look, it's not.
I think that has your name on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, CTS1111C. Server will have my name on it.
That's what he said at the beginning.
Oh, right,
So
that's
the
right,
edit.
yeah.
Yeah, it should be your download folder.
We didn't click the right ones, we didn't.
Not even there.
And,
Oh, I wasn't here. Okay.
and just press.
Set up some
You have to restart it.
Okay, and
I'm
gonna just move it, just so you
know. I picked the Windows 10.
I'm not sure if it's one of those or one that we want to put it.
give it a minute, you'll show up here.
When we had done it, we had it for.
Which one is it? Is it?
Windows 10, you don't have it. And we'll make it right now on the fly. Okay, I'm gonna pause. And I'm gonna start configuring the network for server 1.
Windows Server 1?
Okay, so I'm gonna sign in, SU is root. And I'm going to, does anyone just remember the command name that I ran to configure the networks?
NMCLI.
MNCLI. First I'm gonna look at my current IP settings. I do IP adder. I'm giving people some time to get booted up.
Are we logging in as a student or?
Student, then capital PA, just like the one is. And I can see I still have a dynamic IP address. Oh, just, okay.
Mine says CS21. Is that one like last time you were here? Because I connected to the server 1. I did connect.
Yeah, but the thing is, I reran the script to Ray7.
Okay. Should I do that or is that?
I would do it just so you can get more of a review.
Okay.
It only takes 2 minutes.
Okay.
And so there's my IP. You could, so just close those virtual machines down, just don't have them visible and just run the script again.
Okay.
So I'm going to do nm CLI. I'm going to create a new connection. Connection add. The connection name is ET80 to match this. Type is Ethernet. The interface name that I'm going to link to, the physical device, is Ethernet. The IP4, sorry, it's ET80. The IP4 address is 172.16.0.2/16. The GW4, the gateway, is 172.16.0.1. Guys, this is all one line. I'm not hitting enter. The IPv4.DNS space 10.13.2.5 and 10.13.2.7, and we'll auto connect yes.
Is that a dot or a comma between the 5 and the 10?
A comma. and then bring the connection up.
Professor, can you lift this like a little bit, because we can see right here.
Yeah, give me. And again, there's no space, there's no enter. It's IPv4 DNS. This is the command I ran.
So the first one is big 0, so all the core IPv4. And once the G was 10.
Do you want me to zoom in again? More?
17. Yeah. Start with this gateway. Yeah, well, you do need that part, but you need the other part before it. The gateway goes before the IPv4 part. Ethernet name at 0, 17, that gateway address. Yeah, then the second part, GW4 or 17.
So this is just statically configuring an IP address and host name. You have a dot here. You don't have to go to the end. You can just have it. Good. Now bring, guys, once you assign the IP address to that connection, bring that connection up. Then the next thing we need to do is install, a host name, set the host name. Control, set host name. We called this VM1 last time? Yeah, I think so. Listen, I'm CS01, CS02, CS03, CS04. Sorry. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you're CS15 hyphen VM1. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, Omar is 27. Then just, once you've set the host name, just type reboot, and then we'll move on to the next machine.
Authentication required, I got.
Capital PA11.
So, oh, okay. That's normal.
No, I'll show you. Listen, that connection, you didn't sign it into root.
Oh.
So that connection only will work for student. So when you go into root, it might not be there, but it'll be fine for right now. Oh, Guys, I skipped one step, but we'll do it when we get back up.
You get the gateway. I am ready to report.
And then we have to resolve the host name to the loopback. Sign back in. I'm going to zoom in. SU is root. Guys, I'm going to do clear a lot, so I keep going to the top of the screen. Guys, make sure you root, and then we're going to make sure you boot into the server, the CTS1111C server.
Or like the sluts of right now.
Okay.
We have a gateway address mixed up somewhere.
122.16.0. Okay. No, you have. Okay. So, you can revolve it.
Yeah.
So, IPv4 is 2/16.
Okay, the one I put here.
The gateway is
01.
1.
Okay.
The
DNS, that's it. And then, is there anything in between these? Commas here. That's it, yeah, I duplicated that. That should be 10.13.25 to 30%. Okay. I've heard that.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And you want to go up and, so I'm going to go here, so the only thing is
216.
2/16. 2/16, sorry. Wrong slash. Everything else looks. Okay, now, run this command to bring it up. Do nmcli connection up ET80. Mine's already up, but so I'm going to do vi etsy host. Sorry, vi etsy host. Go and edit that. And then I'm going to go to the bottom, type O, CS01 vm1.linux.com space CS01 -vm1. You put in your name, not mine. And if you want to be very thorough, and you're working on an IPv6 network, you can do this too. Put your O. Listen, O and I does the same thing. O does it right where you're at. I mean, I does it right where it's at, where O doesn't along the line. They both bring you in insert mode. Just right click, edit. Okay. So all I'm doing here is resolving my long and short name to the IPv6 and IPv4 loopbacks. Have you done the midterm? Yeah. Okay, you can use that. I'm not using that. I'm booting it to that special image, so we don't mess up ACE. So just right click, reboot. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Shut down, restart, and choose the CTS1111C image.
Okay.
So I'm gonna press escape. :WQ. And that will save it. We should have done this before the reboot. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this and go to the second machine. Sign in as root. Guys, I have to change my resolution and reboot.
Brian?
Yep.
Am I supposed to do this?
Excuse me. Thank you. Guys, the last time I was Red Hat certified was version 3, and I'm gonna try to I'm gonna try to schedule by Thanksgiving the new test. To take the new test. Red Hat, if you decide to go with getting certified, the R8CSA, the first Red Hat certification, Red Hat will give you a 50% discount, so the test will only cost you $200. Our dean is also trying to, our deans rather, is trying to get the DeLuca Foundation, the guys who run Subway, to pay for all the certification tests. So hopefully that comes through.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm on server 2. We're going to SU's root. Set the IP address up. NMCLI connection, add connection name is each 80. The interface type is, the interface name is each 80. That's the physical device. The type is Ethernet. The IP4 is 172.16.0.3/16. The GW4 is 172.16.0.1, and the IPv4.DNS is 10.13.2.5, 10.13.2.7, and the auto connect is yes. Bring the interface up. Set the host name. Did we put Linux.com before?
Yeah, we did come to Oslo.com.
Yeah, you can talk to last time.
On server 1, I mean.
Oh, let me.
No, Linux was
Last time.
last test it was.
Okay. Let me just look at server 1. No, I set the host name wrong. Guys, I'm going to set the host name. Do I set the host name with the long or short name? I forget now. I'll look it up while we're waiting. Now we're going to edit the host file.
You want us to do the host name?
Yeah, do the host name. We might have to fix it, but that's okay.
Are you putting something on
What was wrong with it? That's the same.
I don't know whether it's, should I put the long or short name?
You had it like that.
You missing one of your EBTH0.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's right, which means I did it wrong on the first one.
I just think the address is on the one side.
Okay. Can I hit enter here? Are you guys caught up?
No.
No. Right there, hit the backspace. And there it is.
Okay, now that's it. Turn it off there, yeah. Now you can put it up.
Okay. Guys, I'm just gonna back out of this for 1 second. A host name, control, status. See how it is right there? Just like it is. The book has you do this. And it comes up with the same thing. It has this, I don't know what this pretty host name is. But this is wrong. So according to the book is wrong then. Because according to the book, it looks like this. You type this, and you end up with this. That's not what we end up with. So I think this is the right way to do it.
So we're good?
Yeah, but we're not good on 1. So 1 is wrong.
Oh.
So let's go back to 1. I just put in the short name. Set host name Linux.com. I forgot to put the Linux.com one.
Professor, can you lift it up a little bit? Thank you.
Sorry if I keep forgetting.
Yeah, that's okay.
So after you do this one on VM1, reboot it. I'm going to move it up more. All I did was fix this one command. Can I hear this typing stopped? I'm going to hit enter.
No, wait, sorry.
Mike, are you redoing this?
Yes.
I didn't do this time. I already had that done from last time. All I did was this. Emilio, are you guys good? What's your name, Brandon? Excuse me, what's your name?
Oh, I'm on.
Juan, are you guys good? Do you need me to come back
I
up?
mean, I'm good for now.
Okay.
We're not using that anymore. No.
You're gonna use the virtual machine.
Yeah, boot into the, reboot into the other menu.
Log out of that one, and log into the CTS1111C. Gotcha.
So I'm gonna hit enter. And go back to server 2. So we just set the host name. Now I'm going to edit the etc host file.
That's what we're looking
I'm going to go to the bottom, hit a lowercase o. I press and unlock. CS01VM2.linux.com. CS01VM2.
So where do I find the server settings?
Reboot. Yeah, if I'm going to send a CTS1111C. And the thing is, if you don't have it, boot into Windows 10 and we'll create it.
Okay.
Does he have a CTS1111C?
You're on a different one.
Yeah, if you're not in that, we can create it. Yeah, if you don't have CTS, if you don't have this one, we'll boot into Windows 10. Okay, I'm gonna press escape, save and quit, and reboot. Let's take our first break.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, so guys, we're doing chapter 14. So I can do a command to query all the packages, QA, query all, and that shows me all the packages. Or I can do query for file to see where I get the packages from. We have these things called repos or repositories. And we define what the repositories are in this directory called etc yum-repos.d. There's a bunch of files in there, and it tells me where I can download software from. By default, Red Hat has some places I can download from. Also, I can download from third-party repositories, if I trust them. Because you don't want to be downloading software from some person who has a web server set up called Russians or us, you know. You need to be careful where you download software from. Right now, I created a custom repository. So when we download, we're going to download from the DVD. So when we install something, we'll install it from the DVD. So if you hit enter, what did I type wrong? yum.repos.d. And we're going to install from the Red Hat release, the DVD. RPM is the thing that actually does the installation. The nice thing about RPM is if you need a piece of dependent software, it'll automatically install that at the same time. In the past, every time you needed to install software, you had to go and download the source code and compile it manually for your machine, because every machine was different. Because I could have created a custom kernel, and at that point, all the software needed to be recompiled for that custom kernel. I would say late 90s, we stopped. We wanted people to stop creating custom kernels because it made too many problems. They wanted you to use the kernel provided by Red Hat or the kernel provided from Debian, because at that point you don't have to manually reinstall the software. Debian or Red Hat could compile it for you. You can just download and install a precompiled version, and that's where Yum comes in. Debian distributions use apt-get, Red Hat distributions use Yum. And we don't really use Yum right now. It's really a front end for this software. Does the same thing as Yum. Yum stands for Yellow Dog Unmodified. There used to be a distro of Linux called Yellow Dog. And this guy made this software that would go out to the internet, retrieve the packages that you need, download them, and then pass them off to RPM to install. So RPM is the thing that's actually going to do the install. Red Hat Package Manager. Yum just goes and retrieves them. It looks in the repository. So right now, they're just showing you RPM. Guys, I've been using Yum so long, I don't know when I actually manually downloaded a software package and used RPM to do the actual installation. It's been a while. So you don't really see the RPM too much. If you had to go the old school method and compile software manually, if I wanted to compile the SSH server, which is a server that allows me to connect, I might manually have to do a bunch of security packages first before I could ever install compile the SSH. What is PCI? Do you know what that stands for? Payment Card Industry. If you accept credit cards at your organization, you have to prove to the bank you're secure. So what you do is you hire an outside company to attack you every day. And they give a report that you're secure or not to your bank. We hire Symantec. If you're not secure, they're going to notify you that you either become a secure or you take that server down. So if they find a vulnerability in the web server on your Linux box, and you didn't have something like Yum, you would have to go out and find all the software within 24 hours, work through all the kinks and recompile it so you're secure. Because if there's a known vulnerability, the people who wrote the software will correct it, but it's then your responsibility to install it in your box. It's a lot easier to do it through a repository than manually grabbing all the source code and compiling it, plus compiling all the dependents. And from that point on, you'd have to manually compile all the software forever. So it's best to stick to Yum, stick to the repositories, it's pre-compiled for your kernel, and it makes your life a lot easier. If we want to look at the scripts that were used, let's query, actually, so there's a software package called Yum. Let's query for that package. So if you do query, it just gives you the package name. If you do query I, it tells you a lot more detail about that package. It was compiled on this machine. It was compiled on this date. Remember I said Yum is just the front end for this? So it's all the information about the package. if you want to query what scripts were used to install or uninstall, you can do, this one had no scripts. Let me get one that has some scripts. Okay. No, I'm sorry, not scripts, configuration files. These are the configuration files, yes.
And that's how you install?
No, I could install with RPM if I manually download the file. We don't really want to do that anymore. I just want to use a repository. I'm going to use Yum to download the file, look for all the dependencies, pass all those files to Red Hat, and Red Hat would do the install. The RPM would do the install. So it looks like Yum does the installation, but it doesn't. Downloads the file, passes it off to RPM, RPM does the installation. So this is just looking at RPM. Again, this is something you probably won't deal with a lot, just because of we use Yum so much. Let's look at the files that were downloaded. For this package. Sorry. QL, that's not a 1, that's it. Okay, now if you wanted to, I could install something with RPM again. We don't really do this anymore. You know, we just use Yum to download. Guys, you would do -I for install, V for verbose, give you information about the install. And this one is optional, H for hash. When I install something, I want to see a little hash bar go along so I can see the progress. Then you would do whatever the package name that you downloaded, .rpm. I don't have any package that I already pre-downloaded.
What's IVA?
I stands for install, V stands for verbose, and H stands for hash mark. The little pound symbol so you can see the progress. Okay, so guys, there's a lot of things on the RPM you can look at. I'm not going into all of it. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to talk about Yum. apt-get is very similar to Yum. The packages are formatted differently. So if you want to install a piece of software on a Debian system, it's going to be different than on a Red Hat system. Because the package, the format of the actual installable package is different.
Yeah.
We're getting away from that now. We're going into something called Flatpak. So you can kind of pre-package it so it works in any distro. So this is where we're going with Red Hat started jumping on board, Debian is starting to jump on board. I might be able to take a Linux package using Flatpak, install it on my Linux server, then install it on my phone. Same package. So this is where we're going, but it's not part of the book, so I want to stick to what's in the book. But if you're installing software, I might consider going this path, you know, than the default Yum. You know, if there's not a package in the default repository, go Flatpak. Save yourself a lot of headaches. You don't have to pre-compile everything. So I'm going to look at this directory. List, Etsy, yum.repo.d. I did something here that's custom for our classroom and for ASIT. Basically, this is the repo that is provided by Red Hat, meaning we're going to download software from the Red Hat servers. The only problem is we haven't paid for a subscription, so we're not allowed to. So to be able to demonstrate this lab, I took the DVD and embedded it in the image. And then I'm pointing to that DVD, so if we run Yum, it's actually going to install from the DVD and not from Red Hat. Just so I can walk through the labs. And basically, cat, no, I'm not in that directory, sorry. Cat, Etsy, Yum. I ran this command, guys. So basically, I stuck the DVD in there. It's mounted to the base OS. GPG is what? Like certificates. So basically, I'm checking that the software is signed. I want to make sure Red Hat compiled the software, and then after they compiled it, they signed it. So I trust who compiled the software. I don't want some random site to do it. And so basically, here's my encryption key. Here's the software that we're installing from. So if I do a Yum search all, and I can do a search of SSH. Or I can do a search of web server. You know, it gives you some information about what software that kind of looks like what you need. So this is the name of the software you would install. Everything before the dot. Generally, if I have an idea of what I want to install, I do yum list grep for httpd. This might not be the right way, but I just query everything that's out there with yum list and look for and grep out what I need. If we want information on a package, I can do yum info then package name. If you have a certain file or directory on your system and you don't know what package gave it to you, you can do yum provides this in this case I'm going to do a directory. Who gave me this directory? Where did I get this directory from? What software package? Here's a command I ran. You could do a file or a directory and find out where that came from. In this case, it came from this package. if I want to do an update, it's giving me a warning saying I'm not registered. That's no problem. It's saying I can't update because on the DVD there's nothing new that I have, I installed from that update, so there's no change. After it does a query and finds out what's there to update, it's going to prompt you, do you want to update? And you hit yes, or you can just do this and not get prompted. So if you're asked any questions, answer yes to those questions. Because sometimes these updates can be, big. It might take a couple hours to update if you have a big system. I could do yum update open SSH I could update a particular package if I wanted to. I could update my kernel if I wanted to. And it would automatically update any dependencies that depends on that kernel. Guys, I'll tell you something else. You never update your kernel. What's the difference between installing a new kernel and updating an existing kernel? If I install a new kernel, the old kernel's still there. If I update my existing kernel, it's going to overwrite my existing kernel. So the old kernel won't be there. What happens if it fails?
Yeah, you can't go back.
You can't go back. So when I do an actual upgrade of the kernel, it's smart enough to realize don't upgrade the kernel. Install a new one, keep the old one there. Unlike if I update OpenSSH, it'll get rid of the old package. The reason being is if something goes wrong, I can always go back to the old kernel. Because so many things depend on that kernel that, especially if it's a graphic system, you install a new kernel, you might not have the graphic driver involved. So when you boot up to the new kernel, you can't, your graphic interface fails the boot. So you have to go to the old kernel, get all software that you need just to get the new kernel, all the software you need for the new kernel. Like NVIDIA, that graphic driver you have to download from NVIDIA. They give it to you. NVIDIA is very good about giving you the graphics driver, but and it'll be compiled for your machine. But because it's a licensed product, they can't include it with the update. So you have to manually download that software and compile it for your machine. The problem is when you get a new kernel, it was compiled for the old kernel, so you have to recompile it for your new kernel. It's a pain, and you have to do that every single time. So what if I wanted to install a piece of software? Yum install HTTP. HTTPD. What is it doing now? Asking, do I want to install it? I'm going to say no. How can I do it without?
-Y.
Yeah. -Y to install. And again, I'm not actually going to the internet to install this. I'm just going to the DVD that's integrated. And the school prevents us from doing updates anyways. So. Guys, this is what I wanted to install. But it's saying to install that, you need all of this. So if I manually went and got the source code for this and compiled it, it wouldn't compile until I compiled all this as well. So this is the nice thing about RPMs and Yum. It does it automatically for you. Again, it was signed, so I know who created that software. I don't want to download software from some unknown source. And installed all the prerequisite software, then installed the software that I wanted, and I'm done. If I want to remove software, so that's to remove software. Red Hat, even Debian distros, they kind of group a lot of software together that you commonly will install. Like if you're going to be a programmer and you want to make, you need all the development tools, I can do this. Yum group list. Yum group list. So they have all the tools, development tools, all grouped together. So if I want to do one second. Guys, when you're reading this chapter, the commands that they're giving you are wrong. I don't know. This is from Red Hat. They're talking about groups that doesn't exist. So, Yum group info. Guys, there's a space in the name, so I have to enclose it in quotes. There's a command. They put a space here, and they say, look for the package called RPM Development Tools. It doesn't exist. So this is a piece of software that groups all of this software together. So instead of, they're not dependencies, but what's a makefile, guys? A makefile is if you want to compile a piece of software that has all these switches and all this dependency software that needs to be compiled at the same time, you can create a makefile. I'm not a programmer. If I download source code from the internet for like a DHCP server and I want to compile it, I'd have to learn all this stuff how to compile a piece of software. Well, you don't need to, because you go in there and you type in, you download the software, you unzip it, you do .configure, ./configure. There's a script called configure. It will look at your machine, then dynamically make a makefile. Then I would say make, and it would read the makefile and install the software if there's no issues with the .config. It would download and compile all the software. I'm sorry, it won't download. .configure will look at your existing system, see what kind of compiler you have, what kind of kernel you have, all the software that you have, all the libraries that you have, to make a makefile. Then I would type make, and it would compile that software for me. Then I would do make install, and it would copy it to a location it needs to be in my system. So those makefiles are really good for installing software. So you might need that. Don't ever delete your source code, because I can go back in that directory and do make clean, bring it back to a default state, or make uninstall to remove the software. Yeah.
Most of the Linux systems have Python 3. If it's a source code in Python, can't you just drop it into Python on Bash and run it and it'll compile it?
No, Python is not a compiled language, it's an interpreted language. So all you're doing there is executing a script.
So you're just executing the script in that case?
Right,
Okay,
right.
all
But this is, I don't know if the default is 3.
No, the default's not 3, but it's an option.
Oh,
The
right,
middle one.
because, you know, all the graphic interface is all written in Python.
In Python, yeah.
So Python is just another scripting language, but I do not think, when you're talking about like this, you're probably talking about a C program.
A C, I was probably confused, because I know that if you type on Bash, if you do type in Python 3, it takes you right into Python.
But just type Python alone.
Okay, yeah, so you don't need 3, okay. That's
3
the
will make sure you go into version 3, but Python alone will take you to version 2. So I think the default is version 2.
So you could drop a Python script right into there and the Bash terminal will run it.
Right, because what I would do is at the very beginning of my Bash script, inside the script, I have something called shebang. The very first line of your script will be hash, bang, bin, Python 3, and that will say execute that script with Python 3. Because we talked about this a little bit. Remember we did,
If you needed that.
you did it.
Yeah, for Python 3, yeah, you need it.
But if it was a bash script, the shebang would be bash.
And that's in the profile,
No, that's in the top of the script.
top of the script.
First line of the script. Just do a search of shebang.
Got it.
Okay, most Linux files are written in C or C++. Okay, so these are all the tools that you would need for, you know, for programming. Guys, incidentally, this is like a editor, like an IDE, and this guy who created it, when Linux first came out, he was going for an interview because he created it in his spare time. And the guy who was doing the interview was like, you know, we use this really cool IDE, you know, it's going to take a learning curve, blah, blah, blah. He keeps going into it and wouldn't let the guy being interviewed have a word in edgewise. He goes, do you think you can learn Bison? He goes, yeah, I wrote it. So that's a good thing for an interview process. Okay, so if you want to install all those tools at once, you might want to look and see if there's a group. So we can do group install. Click yes. I'm going to highlight this for a minute, give you time to type. That will install all the software in that group. Again, the book doesn't have it right, but so Mike is working on ACIT right now. The VMs are running in the background. There's something wrong with either Apache or Tomcat. They can't connect to the back end. So if you're going to do your midterm, probably not this weekend. Guys, for the last 2 weeks, Mike swears he didn't do anything. And I go, okay. So I'm going to hit yes. Okay. It was already installed incidentally, guys. So I've installed those development tools. Guys, I'm going to go back and install HTTPD, a web server. Okay, guys, let's do our second break now. And yeah, guys, that's it for chapter 14. Guys, I needed software to install before we jump to the next chapter, which is 10. I'm going to show you how to stop and start a service. I needed you to be able to install a service for you to stop and start. So that's why I wanted you to install the HTTP. That's why I did the chapters out of order. We did 14. Now we're doing 10. 14 to install some software. 10 to how to stop and start it. I'm going to pause.
What does the D stand for after HTTP?
Damon.
Damon?
Run in background.
Right. Typing Damon.